It's time for Baby and Toddler Instructions with host Blythe Lipman. Blythe is a nationally renowned infant and toddler expert who has over 30 years' experience helping moms and dads regain their sanity, teaching them how to survive, and giving them the confidence they need to be the best parents ever. From sleeping, to crying, to potty training, to choosing a preschool, and so much more. If you're a parent, Baby and Toddler Instructions is the show you've been looking for. Now here's your host, Blythe Lipman.
Well, good morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time zone you're in. Welcome to Baby and Toddler Instructions. Can you believe it's September already? Before we know it, the leaves will be changing, and it'll be beautiful. That's the one thing I really do miss in living in Arizona, besides the ocean, the pretty leaves, and the cool, crisp air of fall. Although I can drive about 2 hours north to Flagstaff if I really want to be cold and see the leaves. It is pretty up there. I have two wonderful guests today, Connie Grunning from peanutbutterandwine.com. We're going to talk about what's hot and what's not in September. And then the famous LinkedIn lady, Carol McManus. But before I welcome both of them, I want to share a quick funny story with you. Over the holiday weekend, I was in California and I was at this resort, and I'll tell you what, kids are just so great. This just cracks me up. Last week on Facebook, on My Best Parenting Advice and Baby Instructions pages, and by the way, go on Facebook and please like my pages. That's My Best Parenting Advice and Baby Instructions. Anyway, I ran a contest asking what the most embarrassing thing your child ever did. And a number of people answered, and it's always so funny. But anyway, they had a lazy river where I was at this place, and there was the cutest little girl with her family. She had a couple siblings, and she had on swim goggles, and her dad and mom were in there, and sisters and a little baby. Anyway, the little girl goes underwater, and she comes up, and underwater, and she comes up, and every time she comes up, she goes, "I see Daddy's penis." So it just cracked me up. The poor mother was mortified. And you know what? If we could keep the innocence of children, not that we should walk around saying things like that, but they're so innocent, and they're just so great. And this poor mother, I think she wanted to dive under the water so nobody could see her. And I just looked at her and I said, you know what? She's adorable. So go on Facebook if you have any embarrassing moments you want to share. Please share them with me. Or you can go to my website. Let me know. Anyway, there were some really good ones on Facebook. Also, there was one recall this week, the Ace Bayou beanbag chairs. It says the zippers on the beanbags chairs can be opened by children who can crawl inside, yikes, get trapped and suffocate and choke on the beanbags chairs' foam beads. That is pretty darn scary. You know, check the zippers. Anything you give your children, toys, anything they're going to use, check zippers, check that the buttons don't come off. They're going to go in the mouths. But especially these beanbag chairs, I've seen moms, lay their little babies on the chair because it can support their back. Don't use beanbag chairs for your babies. Get a bouncy seat, or put them in their crib if you have to do something. The beanbag chairs are just not safe for babies, for toddlers either. These are not the right chairs. They're not age appropriate. Anyway, that was from Ace Bayou, and I will put that on my website, babyinstructions.com and mybestparentingadvice.com. But we have such a busy morning, so without any other shares from me, I am going to welcome the wonderful Connie Grunning from Peanut Butter and Wine, WHINE.com, so she can talk all about what's hot and what's not in September. So, Connie, thanks for being here. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, and happy September. Okay,
Thanks.
So last week I showed you or kind of told you how to enter giveaways and sweepstakes and things, not just on my site, but others. Make sure you don't pay for anything because then it's not really a real sweepstakes or giveaway. Once you get that letter that says you've won, keep that until your prize comes, because if your prize doesn't come, contact the person who is holding the giveaway and maybe she can hound the company and make sure you do get your prize. Also, on that same thing, as soon as your prize comes, thank the blogger. It really does take a lot of work to get a giveaway. They've got to not only write the post, but they have to get it out there so that you see it, so that everybody sees it. They're constantly working behind the scenes. So just make sure you do a quick, thank you for doing that. That was very nice, and I love my prize, whatever. But thank yous are just nice. You teach your kids to say thank you, continue that on. Okay, so for this month, I got some really great things. The Custom Pillow Pal is one of them. You're going to take your child's artwork and turn it into a pillow. They do the custom. You just send them the drawing. They're going to make a pillow that matches that drawing. So that's fun. Oh, by the way, my giveaways are listed. They're about the third or fourth thing down on my blog on the right side. It says PB and Wine's current giveaways. So
I want the fruit freeze, and I want the baking mats. I love those baking mats.
Oh, that's so good. So that one just started, so that's a good one to get in on. The China Berry Gift Basket. This is a San Diego company called China Berry Gifts, and they are doing a giveaway, a $50 gift certificate, and they're doing that for I don't know how many weeks. I can't remember right now. Anyway, each week they're going to give you a $50 gift certificate to use on their site. Tons of fun family items. I've got some books coming to review from them that, you're just going to love these. These are great kid books. There's little picture albums for my family that I'll be reviewing soon from them. So cute.
I want to say something about the mats. They're baking mats, and I have to say I love them. And when you make cookies, boy, they bake so evenly and wonderful, and they're on here. But talk about the fruit freeze. What does this do? Okay. This looks really cool.
You're going to put frozen fruit into this machine, turn it on, and out comes a soft serve. Now, we did this one with just regular frozen fruit. For the kids, you're going to want to add, like a banana, something for sweetening on it, because it will just taste just like the fruit. So you're going to put whatever fruit you want into this. It comes out looking like a soft serve ice cream.
Yum, and a little hot fudge, and then you defeated the whole purpose, huh?
It is so good. I use, for the kids, I add a little bit of honey or a little bit of sugar, or a banana, just to give it a little more sweet to it.
Ah.
So that's a very good one. Another really good one on here is the jet fryer, and it's gonna cook, but without the oil and the grease. So that's another one that you're gonna love for, especially, when you're short on time. Let's see, for us ladies that can't sleep through the night without getting overheated, the Nature's Sleep Cool Gel Pillow is one of those gel-filled foam pillows that keeps you cool and comfortable all night long with support.
Have you tried it?
Oh, it's wonderful. It's wonderful.
Oh, wow.
I sleep so much better on this pillow. I want an entire bed made out of this. So that's a good one. The Mustang clock for, especially, I'm getting ready to, Christmas shop now and get things going for Christmas. This would be so cool looking in a garage. If you're a Mustang fan or your husband is, this is so cool. It's got not just the radio, but also a clock and a thermometer. So those are really cool. I also, of course, have the two that I sponsor every month just for, as a thank you for coming to my blog and sticking around and entering. I have a diamond candle and the $35 your way. You can get it any which way you would like. A Home Depot card, an iTunes card, PayPal, whatever your choice is. And the other thing I want to tell you about is you can grab a free brochure right now for the walk-in tubs, especially from Premier Care and Bathing. Especially if you're getting, if your parents are aging and you're starting to think about putting, an extra room on the house for your parents, or you just want the more comfort of a real bathtub but you don't have a lot of room, grab a brochure now for for the Premier Care. They have tons of different bathtubs. We're looking at getting one for my mom's little apartment that we have built onto the house, and And it's an amazing little place. They've got tons of great things there. And what else? The
What
Mama
is this
Chai
syrup?
pack.
The Yacon syrup? Yacon syrup? I never heard of this.
Oh, did you know Yacon syrup is one of the most highly used sweeteners in the world. It's thick like molasses, but it doesn't taste like molasses. It's very sweet. I use a teaspoon of this in my coffee every day. It's all natural, but I'm telling you, you will be regular. 1 teaspoon a day, 2 teaspoons a day. You will not have your pipes will be clean.
And it only has 13 calories per teaspoon. Huh, that's pretty cool. I never heard of this. What do you know?
Yes. And you can bake with it. You can.
Oh.
Yep, and I love it in my coffee. I will never use a different sweetener in my coffee, ever.
Well, I'm going to be very busy after the show because there are so many great things that I want to go on and try to get. You have such a good site. I just love it. I love having you on the show, as you know, and boy, everything's wonderful. So I understand you're going to be going on a wonderful trip.
I will. Just talk to you next month. I'll be in Hawaii.
Wow, that's so great. Hawaii's so pretty. And what about little Alice? What's she going to do? Is she going with Grandma?
She is coming with. It's with both grandmas and with the mommy. So it'll be a girls' trip. Week in Hawaii.
Well, everybody check out Peanut Butter and Wine, WHINE.com, and you'll see pictures of little Alice and Connie and her whole asylum, as Connie calls it. And next month, we will talk to her again. Connie, thank you so much for being on the show today, and you have a wonderful trip and enjoy September. I cannot believe we are already into the fall almost. So we will talk to you next month.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
We'll be right back with more Help My Baby Came Without Instructions. It's Baby and Toddler Instructions with Blythe Lipman on TogiNet. We'll be right back right after these.
Do you want to get a contact high? Tune in for fun, inspiration, and motivation every Friday at noon Eastern Standard Time. Learn how to maximize your mojo and just say no to the status quo. Get inspired and motivated by a fun-loving coach who knows what it's like to get through this thing called life. With your High on Life coach, Audra Irwin, each Friday at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time and 12 noon Eastern.
It's time to devote time to yourself and strap yourself in for a fun, down-to-earth, enthusiastic, compassionate, easy-to-understand discussion on the unlimited ways you can be all that you want to be. Join us for Bee Institute Radio with Christine McKee on TogiNet Radio. Each week, Christine will have lively and open discussions and interviews, share stories and case studies, and hear from experts on the topic of the week. Christine, a registered psychologist from Australia and published author of Be by Design, How I Be Is Up to Me, hosts lively discussions and interviews every Thursday evening at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. Welcome back to Baby and Toddler Instructions with Blythe Lipman on TogiNet. The hour for all moms with little ones to come for great advice, encouragement, and great ideas for all new parents. Now, back to the show with Blythe Lipman.
Well, welcome back to the show. I just had Connie Grunning from Peanut Butter and Wine, WHINE, on the first segment if you weren't here. Visit her site. She's wonderful. Great giveaways, great products. But now it's time for the famous LinkedIn lady. Carol McManus is a self-described recovering corporate executive. She left her position as Senior VP of Real Estate for Coldwell Banker in 2007 to pursue her own coaching, consulting, and leadership training company, You Wait for Success. And like most entrepreneurs, she had no significant marketing budget and wanted to quickly grow her brand, and did, and her network. So she turned to social media, and she used every platform available to attribute her overnight six-figure success to LinkedIn, as well as Facebook, Twitter, and all the other social media platforms. Her speaking and consulting business shifted to social media, and Carol speaks all over the country about social media, and she has this great show, the LinkedIn Lady Show, that now airs on the All Business Radio Network, and it reaches audiences worldwide through the live broadcast and podcast downloads. And Carol's passion is to consult with entrepreneurs and businesses that want to effectively use digital tools, including social media, to grow their own brand and their bottom line. And if you haven't ever heard Carol, you have got to listen to the LinkedIn Lady Show. It's wonderful. You can pull up the podcast. I told Carol this, and it's the truth. When I walk, and I haven't walked much lately because it's been in the hundreds here in Arizona, I listen to Carol. She goes on a walk with me. I put in my headphones and I listen to her podcast, and boy, I've learned a lot. So Carol, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for being here today.
Thanks so much, Blythe. It's great to be here.
And can you tell the listeners what time your show is, just in case they can tune in?
Sure. I air 2 days a week, on Tuesday and Wednesday at 4 o'clock Eastern time. So if you're on the West Coast, that would be 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
Well, you know what? I love your show, and I always say it, and I love that you take a walk with me. Maybe someday we'll take a walk together without the earphone.
I would love that. I love that.
Anyway, social media, yikes. I have so many questions, and parents have so many questions, because things constantly change. And, with school just starting, especially in the preschools, a lot of preschools have computers. But how do parents know what to do, what to prepare their children with? Do they still need to know the numbers, the colors, how to read? And do they get that by using iPads and iPhones? And we could go on, but let's start there.
Well, the answer is yes, yes, and yes. They are very relevant for children. In fact, I just spent part of Labor Day weekend with my niece and nephew-in-law and their two children, who are 2 and 4. And knowing that this interview was coming up, I really paid a lot of attention to the children's behaviors and how mom and dad were sort of mentoring, coaching, and allowing access to media. And I got to tell you, these two kids, again, 2 and 4, are whizzes when it comes to the use of an iPad. Not so much the iPhone, although they do have a couple of apps on their mom's iPhones that they play with, but obviously they like the iPad because it's a bigger tablet for them to play on. But she is very good about not only monitoring their time and balancing it with what I would call real-time play or real play time, but also what they can have access to. So I think the educational apps that are out there for kids today are truly, truly amazing. And when we say kids are more advanced today than they ever were, this is probably the best example of how technology and electronics are really changing the learning of our toddlers.
Well, I'm so happy you said that your niece monitors what her children do. Wow, 2 years old already. I sent a book. Fast 2 years. Anyway, I think that you'll agree that's the key, because the kids can go any place, or it's easy. Like, a lot of parents used to put videos on for their children when they had to make dinner. Instead, here we have this other type of technology. Do you think that the kids like the iPad because of their little fingers? You see a man with a big hand trying to do the iPad if he doesn't use a stylus, and they seem to have a lot more trouble than the little kids.
Yeah, well, and we got to remember that they don't know what they don't know, so they're fearless when it comes to the use of an iPad. And I absolutely agree. Watching the television or watching a video, because they also like to keep the TV on and have certain cartoons. There's one channel, it's not the Nickelodeon channel, I forget which one it is, with age appropriate and content appropriate cartoons, educational cartoons, and they have that on. And it was interesting because the 4-year-old was probably more engaged still with the television, And the 2-year-old was more engaged with the iPad. It was very, very interesting. But then they switched, and I think it's like most children of that age as they're growing. There's that, as you well know, Blythe, there's this rabid curiosity. They want to know everything. They want to experience everything. They want to touch everything. They want to feel everything. They want to smell everything. And I think what we're really talking about is sensory. That children still need to be exposed on multiple levels at tying into all of their senses, whether it's sight, sound, touch, feel, feeling, smell, taste, all of those things. So the apps that are out there, and your point about using the finger is, I think, something that really keeps them engaged and entertained. And when you think about it, is a whole lot better than just sitting and looking passively at a static screen, even though it might be educational content, going back to the old Sesame Street days that sort of paved the way for, educational content for children. But now the children can be part of the education, which means from a learning perspective, they're going to remember more.
Absolutely. You know what? And that's such a good point, because when kids are doing something, whether it's with their hands or their feet or whatever, they do stay more engaged and they don't get bored. But, the question that always occurs to me too, because I know many preschools now have iPads. Some of them even have computers. And I know the majority of the kindergarten classrooms have computers. What happens to the kids that don't have the access to social media? Are they going to, I know maybe neither one of us knows this answer, but it always worries me that they're going to get left behind.
Well, when you think about it, though, it's really not a whole lot different than it's ever been. There are always kids that don't have access to some of the same tools. You could argue that all of us always had access to public libraries, and we could go get a book in the, dark ages of when people actually read books because there was nothing else to do. And there were kids, when I was growing up, who didn't have televisions in the house, and there were kids that didn't have VCRs or any type of recording device. But the fact of the matter is they still found ways to learn, and they still found ways to catch up. The accessibility of technology today is, I won't say it's totally leveling the playing field, but it's actually a lot more level than I think people think, because even in some of the neediest areas of the country, there is access to technology, even if it's just that smartphone. If that's the only thing that the family has, you can still put children's apps on a smartphone, and kids can have access because, again, everybody has them today. People don't function without them.
No, that's a good point. That's a really good point. I remember a number of shows back, I talked about a library, and I can't remember where it was, that actually you could take an iPad out. Instead of taking the book, they loaned you the iPad. And what was interesting to me is that they got them all back. So I thought, I wonder how many are going to come back. But, people were very honest, which was so nice. And so they could take them out for a couple weeks, which I thought, what? It's great because it's another avenue, but I don't want to ever see books go away. Once in a while, I want to hold that book.
Yeah, I'm with you. I still like my books. I'm looking in my own office here, and I have shelves and shelves of books, and I would never part with them.
No, and it's interesting too, because there's a difference between a parent reading a book online with a child than letting them hold it and letting them point to it. And, there's just a difference, but it'll be interesting to see what happens in years to come. Hopefully books will always be. So
let me just comment on that, Blythe, because one of the things that was really interesting when I was talking to my niece about that, because she happens to also be a school teacher. She teaches 6th grade, but obviously she has learned a lot, being a mother also. And her older child, her 4-year-old, is not on the Asperger's spectrum, but very close. He has some learning challenges. So she's highly sensitive to what his learning adaptations are. And she was telling me that when she was researching this, one of the things that she found was that it's really, really important to balance the technology with those real-time play things, like sitting down with a real book, to your point, of pointing and turning pages and pointing to letters and pointing to words and getting them to say them out loud. And then also play with real toys and play outside. They're very good about taking the kids outside and getting fresh air and playing with real toys, so the technology is great, and it's really amazing, and it is helping children learn quickly and retain a lot more than probably we did at our age, at that age, I should say. But you can't just rely on that as the substitute for all things elsewhere in the world. You still have to have that real world experience.
It's all about balance for all of us, for the kids, for everybody. You know, and while we're talking about this, what are the hot products that are out now that the parents should consider for early learning? There's so many things. How do you know what's good, what's not?
Well, I'll start on that. I think we're probably going to run up against a time clock here, but let me give a generalized answer. And then I actually have some really good ones that I want to share with your listeners when I was doing my research. And again, talking to my niece and some of the things that she learned from her friends on the ones that she's allowing her children to use. But where I would start is you, as a parent, you really want to do your research first. You want to know, what do you want the app to do? Are you just downloading it because it's going to be a glorified babysitter to keep your kid engaged? Or are you downloading it because there is a purpose to it? Is this going to teach them spelling? Is it going to teach them to read? Is it going to teach them math? Is it going to teach them about science? Is it going to teach them, fill in the blank? So that's part one, is have a purpose in what you want the app to do. What are they ready for, and what do you want to expose them to? Then part two is do your research on which ones you want to use. And my biggest advice there is really simple. You're probably, even though you might pay a little bit more for the apps, and none of them are very expensive. They range usually from free up to maybe $4.99, maybe $5.99 at the very, very most. So we're not talking a whole lot of money here, but if you go with the brand names or the names that are known to people who from the education world and from the world of, and it could be television, it could be, Dora the Explorer, it could be SpongeBob SquarePants, it could be something that, it could be Sesame Street. If they're used to it, Curious George is another one. They are already geared to education and learning, so there is probably going to be a higher quality of how the app was developed versus some that are just out there. And that is actually my second big caution flag, is that a lot of the apps that are free, what you're going to find out is that they have a marketing component and they're immediately going to want to sell to you. So I'll stop there because I know we have to go to break.
We have a break, and you know what? Those are really good points. So when we come back, we will talk more to Carol McManus about technology and children. We'll be right back.
Baby love, my baby love, I need you, oh, I need you.
We'll be right back with more help. For help, my baby came without instructions. It's Baby and Toddler Instructions with Blythe Lipman on TogiNet. We'll be right back right after these.
Baby love, my baby love, I need you, oh, I need you.
Goals, objectives, business and action plans. How important are they for me to manage? Whether you're an executive, entrepreneur, or maybe you're just someone looking to advance your career and want to be confidently prepared for your future, business and life coach Carmen Carroza can help you remove obstacles and move forward in the right direction. Carmen is known as the real-world coach for a reason. His no-nonsense style, along with an innate ability to form connections with people, gives you a unique opportunity to see higher and further than ever before. We live and work in an ever-changing, complicated world that can leave us with questions about every decision we make. Join host Carmen Carroza, business and life coach, on Forward Motion every Monday at 2 p.m. Central, 3 p.m. Eastern. You will realize dreams and aspirations you thought were out of reach.
This is Uncommon Sense for Leaders, a forum for exploring leadership from the intellect, the heart, and the spirit. Whether you're a leader now or aspire to be a leader in the future, you owe it to yourself to learn about the big ideas that have shaped the careers of compelling communicators, masters of influence, and highly effective leaders. Uncommon Sense for Leaders. Tune in to hear thought-provoking ideas on every aspect of leadership. You can expect dynamic discussions with special guests, quick tips you can apply immediately for better results, and the tools you need to take you from where you are to where you want to be as a leader. Are you ready to crack the code for achieving unprecedented results? Then join the host for Uncommon Sense for Leaders, Catherine Carlisi, every Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on the All Business Radio Network.
Welcome back to Baby and Toddler Instructions with Blythe Lipman on TogiNet, the hour for all moms with little ones to come for great advice, encouragement, and great ideas for all new parents. Now, back to the show with Blythe Lipman.
Well, welcome back to Baby and Toddler Instructions. I'm here with my wonderful guest, Carol McManus, the LinkedIn lady when it comes to technology. She knows her stuff. So before the break, we were talking about the hot products that parents should consider getting for early learning with their little ones. Any favorite?
Yeah, let me start with maybe a little bit by age, because let's go with the youngest. Believe it or not, there are really, really good apps out there for what I would call the 2 to 4, 2 to 5 is usually how they're rated. So one was actually developed by Montessori school teachers. It's called Intro to Math by Montessori. That's very, my grandnephew was using that. It was just adorable to see him working on his math. There's another one called Shape Builder. And that's a drag and drop jigsaw puzzle thing. And it's actually, what's really cool about this one, there's rewards built into it. So there's a lot of positive interaction with the child. And it's built as a vocabulary builder also. So it's not just a puzzle, but it's a puzzle with a vocabulary intent. That's for the 2 to 5. Another one that was developed by Highlights Magazine, and they actually have several. But the one that I thought was really cute, this is actually 2 to 6 is how it's rated, is My First Hidden Pictures. And if you remember, it's sort of the children's version of Where's Waldo? But
Right.
again, go ahead.
They used to have that in their magazine, I remember, with my kids. With
Yep,
the hidden
and that's
pictures.
exactly what it is. The hidden pictures, exactly like you and I remember it in the Real Highlights magazine, is now in an app form. There's another one called Bob's Books, and the number one that I saw this weekend was Reading Magic, and this is a spelling application, but they learn to read in a storybook format, and there is this most soothing, encouraging voice that you just, you do anything for this woman when you hear her voice. It's really, really cute. Then going in a little bit different direction, there's one called Kids Song Machine. They take about, 10 to 12 classic kids songs, very light animation. It's not a very sophisticated app, but what's really cool is the kids can influence the animation by touch. So if you think of it as their first version of karaoke, so if you have a child, who has an ear for music or responds to music, that might be one to consider. And then another one for that age group is called Monkey's Preschool Lunchbox. This is another drag and drop, but it's very cool. The monkey is the main character, and you have to fill his lunchbox, but the drag and drop is like filling in the parts of the banana as part of a puzzle was one example. And it's a game. And again, there's this really cool voice that cheers you on, or if you make a mistake, really gives what I would call gentle correction. So, again, that positive learning where you're moving forward and you're learning from your mistakes. So that was one that I thought was kind of cool. If you move up a little bit, the 3-year and up, or 3 to 6, one that I liked was called Cut the Rope. And believe it or not, this is simple physics puzzles. And you feed candy to this little monster. And what it's designed for, its purpose is hand-eye coordination and spatial logic. So now we're getting into a little bit more sophistication in terms of whatever your child is ready for or what you want to sort of move them toward. There's one called Animatch, A-N-I Match, which is an interface between portraits and sounds. So this would be, you see a picture of a pig and you hear an oink, and then you have to, pull the, you have to point to the right picture that the sound goes with. Another one in the 3 to up, this was a fun one too. This is a little bit like the hidden objects. This is called Picturica, like picture Ika. And it's with musical instruments, but, the hidden objects, this is one I really loved. And she had my nephew playing with this one, where you can set it to, there's different versions or different, categories where you can pick out the musical instruments in the picture, pick out the sharp objects in the picture. So again, you get your child to start thinking about, what do I, just not only being able to identify things, but what are the dangerous things maybe I should stay away from. And then, there's just a slew of them. There's one that's hugely popular called Clickety Clack Alphabet, which is just the practice of ABCs. It has illustrations, animations, sound effects. And you can make your own farm scene, which was what the kids sort of, I think, graduate into as they get really used to. There's one called Explorium, which is about learning about ocean life. There's one called Puzzle in Pieces, and there's actually a whole bunch of those, but the one that I saw was USA, where the puzzle pieces are positioning the states on a map. And I don't even know if they're still teaching that in schools. I hope they are. But if they're not, at least you can teach your kids where Missouri is versus where Hawaii is.
Oh, yeah, and I hope they're doing the capitals. I remember having contests with that, name the capitals in all the states.
I don't think this particular game did it, but I'm sure there's one out there.
Oh,
I mentioned Curious George before. There's one that he has out called the Birthday Surprise, and that's a reading application, really good for reading. There's a Number Hero for simple math. They have a multiplication version, an addition version, a subtraction version, and you play against a clock. So what I thought was really cool about this is you're already beginning to condition your child to this idea of testing, and then testing doesn't become fearful because it almost becomes a game that you play against the clock to win before the clock runs out.
And the time, and also learning the time, because, the kids in preschool, they say, Mommy, when are you going to be back? And Mommy doesn't say 12 o'clock. She can say after circle time. These are great. I've written down every single one you've said.
Oh, I only have one more, and this is the only thing category I didn't hit on was colors. Fun with colors. Absolutely fabulous interactive story, color games, animated drawings. Again, so my point is, whether you choose these or you go out there and do your own research, there's, Parents Magazine has a good site. There's lots of sites that you can go to do your research. But what you really want to do is, what does my child need to learn? What do I want them to learn? Do I want them working on alphabet? Do I want them working on colors? Do I want them working on reading? And you can really, really prep your child, not only for preschool, but obviously for kindergarten and beyond. But I would put a caution flag out there for parents that I think they're smart enough to know this, but don't let your child know, okay, now we're going to do the reading app. This is an app, and at this age, when you're in the 2 to 5 range, let them have fun with it. Let them explore. Let them point their finger. Let them make mistakes. That's how they learn. And that's all.
I love you. I'm so happy you said that because, the kids are growing up so fast today. 3 is like 6. 3 was a baby years ago, and they do have to have fun. And these apps, they are fun. And it's okay if they make a mistake, because that's part of life. You know what? You don't win every time you do something, which is another show that we can have another day.
Amen to that.
There aren't always, you see the soccer games and everybody gets a trophy. And I always wonder, is that good or is that bad? Are we teaching a child that you can win? Anyway, let's get off of that subject. So thanks for sharing all that. And I am certainly going to share it on my websites, My Best Parenting Advice and Baby Instructions, because I blog a lot and it's such great information. So let's talk a little bit about how early do you think a child should be given an iPad or a tablet? You'll see in the grocery store, there'll be a baby, maybe 9, 10 months old, 11 months old, and mom hands, the baby the iPhone so they can shop. What do you think?
Well, I'm going to give you 2 answers to this. My own reaction is no, way too young. And more importantly, an iPhone is not a cheap instrument. If they drop it and it falls, even if you have a case on it, if it falls a certain way, it's going to break. So to me, that's just utterly stupid, because what do 11 months old do in a shopping cart? They throw things out of the cart, right?
Exactly.
Having said that, I will tell you that there is a school of thought that it is a good way to keep kids engaged. Maybe not at 11 months, maybe more 18 to 24, probably pushing the 2-year, but to keep them occupied when they're in the store, because they do get bored. Kids hate usually to go grocery shopping. And if they're not in the cart, the other adults in the store hate when kids are in the grocery store. So keeping them occupied with something that they can be, again, but not just playing for the sake of playing or dialing, overseas calls, but the idea that there is some kind of an app that they can be playing with is probably not the worst thing in the world. But this actually opens up to me a bigger subject is, are you just sticking this in their hands as, again, a glorified babysitter because you don't have the patience to talk to your child, to work with your child, to help them experience what you're experiencing? Asking simple questions about, do you think we should buy peas or carrots this week? Do you think daddy would like, that steak or that steak? And pointing to the counter and, look at the fresh green vegetables. What do you think we should have for dinner today? Because even very, very young children, again, can start learning life skills in the grocery store. So why on earth would you take them and then ignore them when they're in the store. I just don't get that as a parent. I remember as a child going to the grocery store with my mother, and I loved it because I was part of the experience.
You know, there are other things too. What I tell my parents is if you have coupons, or even get some coupons, even if you're not going to use them. And you know what? If your child's old enough, go down the aisle with them and give them the coupon and say, can you find what's on this picture? It's another teaching tool, and they're not running into everybody else. And you know what? They're not throwing your iPhone. And it is another learning place to learn.
That's a great idea. That's a great idea.
And they're helping. Toddlers love to help. You know what? I don't care if they're wiping something off in the house with a little, paper towel. Toddlers love to help, and it's great for their self-esteem.
Yep, I would agree.
So, okay, I agree with you, too, about giving such a young one in the car the iPhone because they do end up on the floor. So, what do you think about pictures? What do you think about parents posting all these pictures of their kids on Facebook?
I worry. I have to say I worry. And I know a lot of people will challenge me. They'll say, oh, you're just an old fart. What do you know, Carol, that you're a different generation. This is the world we live in today. But the parents, the young, millennials, the Gen X's and beyond, Gen Z's, did not grow up themselves with their entire lives being exposed to the world. And I'm talking everything with a cute picture of them having peas splattered all over their face or spaghetti all over their face, or the first time they sat on the potty by themselves. Or even the fun pictures, of not the embarrassing ones necessarily, but the cute pictures with the dogs and the cats and the on vacation and all that. The children don't have a choice. And you have to remember and remind yourself, what is your conversation going to be with your child 15 years from now when this picture resurfaces through some social channel and they're asking you, Mom, why on earth did you ever put this out there? Did you not realize how this was going to impact me? We haven't had a generation come through yet that has had this type of overexposure where they didn't have a choice. Because all of this began, with teens and young adults using social media, and then parents figuring it out sort of on their tail. And times have changed. We can talk more about this after our break, Blythe.
Okay, we will be right back.
We'll be right back with more Help My Baby Came Without Instructions. It's Baby and Toddler Instructions with Blythe Lipman on TogiNet. We'll be right back right after these.
Hey kids, do you think you're creative? You want to be? Don't have enough time for your arts, crafts, and hobbies? Or do you just need a kick in the pants? Hi, I'm Mark Lipinski, the host of Creative Mojo with Mark Lipinski, right here on TogiNet Radio. Come on and join me every Wednesday afternoon for some creative inspiration and 2 of the fastest, fun-filled hours of your week. Hey, need ideas? How about a little motivation and a lot of inspiration? Join the fun on Creative Mojo with me, Mark Lipinski. I'm here live every Wednesday afternoon at 3 p.m. Eastern, 1 Pacific, right here on TogiNet.com. Now what are you waiting for?
The Woohoo Radio Network presents the Diva Download with Tracy and Tasha. If you think Diva is all about attitude and drama, think again. The Diva Download is the premier online radio program where girls of all ages, shapes, sizes, and colors get together to redefine what it means to be a diva so that all girls can discover their inner diva and develop a healthy sense of self-worth and self-esteem. Being a true diva means you're diverse, involved, value-driven, and active. That's today's diva. If you want to celebrate the girl in your life through education, encouragement, empowerment, and entertainment, join us every week on Tuesdays from 6 to 7 p.m. Central Standard Time and celebrate the essence of being a girl only here on the Woohoo Radio Network.
Welcome back to Baby and Toddler Instructions with Blythe Lipman on TogiNet, the hour for all moms with little ones to come for great advice, encouragement, and great ideas for all new parents. Now, back to the show with Blythe Lipman.
Well, welcome back. I am here with my wonderful guest, Carol McManus, the LinkedIn lady, and she knows everything when it comes to technology. I love talking to Carol, and before the break, we were talking about posting all those adorable pictures on Facebook of your little ones. So, Carol, we were talking about, I was asking about a digital shadow for your kids, and can you talk about that a little bit? Because I think it goes into posting all these things about your kids and, you know, especially the babies and what they do and when they sleep or when you're upset because you haven't had any sleep.
Yeah, and I think here's the question that I would ask parents to think about. If you had these pictures in your wallet, remember the old days when we used to carry pictures of our kids in our wallets? If you had these pictures in your wallets, who would you share them with? And just let that land and really think about that. Who would you want to share this picture with or these pictures with? Would it be just grandma and grandpa, aunts, uncles, close friends? Or would it be anybody in line at Starbucks or anybody in line at the grocery store? And again, I know there's a generational shift here because the more youthful generation and young parents today do have this sort of non-privacy filter, and they share everything with everybody, not even thinking about, does this person even care about this picture, which is sort of a different question.
Yeah.
Because I do think we can overshare and bore people to death. There's a couple of people that I've blocked on Facebook because they just became so obnoxious about wanting to share every single detail of their day. And it's like, I don't care. Just stop it already. Enough is enough is enough. I love being social. I love being, in touch and knowing what's going on in people's lives. But you do that with broad strokes. You don't do that with intimate details. And I think maybe that's a distinction for people to think about. When do intimate details versus broad strokes and interesting anecdotal information, when are they appropriate? So going back to the grandma, grandpa, mom, dad, whoever, people don't realize that you can have custom settings on Facebook, if that's the platform you want to use, which a lot of people do, to share photos and to be able to just put them out there to certain people. And with the understanding that these are people that you trust that are not going to repost them and tag them and send them out to all of their friends because they think they're so adorable. And frankly, some grandparents need to be trained too, because they don't really always think through the consequences of, sharing pictures with their friends, say, oh, look at my little granddaughter. Isn't she cute? And then they forget that that those people can also share them. If social media is not your thing, or if you're concerned about the privacy settings on Facebook, because we know they're famous for a very poor privacy and they share a lot more information than we know or most people know with their advertisers, with their investors. I mean, there is nothing private on Facebook. I'm sorry, there isn't. So you can use sites like Google Drive or Dropbox. Flickr is another one that you can use that's private, or old-fashioned email, or maybe you even want to print that photo out and send them to them, although that's honestly not the one that I recommend. It's nice to put an album together at Christmas time, I guess, for the family. But the online storage services are usually pretty reliable, although it's kind of ironic that we're having this conversation today since Apple's cloud was just hacked this weekend and all the big stars' intimate photos were taken out of their iCloud accounts and posted online, which was kind of funny.
I saw that. Nobody said anything about just regular people's, all their stuff was hacked too.
Right. Well, they don't care about us normal folks. They care about, Jennifer Lawrence and, some of the famous people. But here's a couple of other things besides privacy settings. And this, it takes somebody who's a little more patient, a little more tech savvy, because there is this instant gratification. You take a picture and you push it out there and it's posted. rather than do that, invest in an app called iWatermark or A Plus Signature and put a watermark on those pictures. So they can't be used, they can't be shared, they can't be sold. If you're really more sophisticated, you can use editing programs like Picasso or Photoshop, which I'm guessing most people probably don't do. And the other thing that you can do is there's a tendency to always want to go with high resolution. If you post pictures with a lower resolution, then those nefarious, evil people out there, and they are out there, those predators who are looking for beautiful children that they can stalk or post on their, create wallpaper for their bathroom, you don't want them to be able to blow up those photos. So low resolution photos will actually help. They're still visible online, but you can't do anything with them in terms of printing or expanding. So little techniques like that will give that a layer, a thin layer, but a layer of protection that you probably didn't have before. But I'm still going to go back to where I started, Blythe. I really wish parents would hit the pause button and think long and hard. Number one, how much, how often, and to what extent should my photos be posted of my kids, and what are the consequences going to be 10, 15, 20 years from now? How could this come back to haunt them? And ask themselves the question, look in the mirror and say, we've all got embarrassing pictures in the family photo albums. Go back and say, how would I have felt growing up if my parents had, independent of me, made this decision to put all this stuff out there online? How would I feel now as an adult if I was looking for a job, if I was trying to get into an Ivy League school, if I was trying to, date somebody and this is something they found out about me online and I become the laughing stock, they're just not thinking of what the downstream consequences are going to be. It's,
even employers, when your teenager gets their first job, you don't want employers to see things that they shouldn't see.
Exactly.
Privacy, you know what? It's the name of the game. And I have to tell you, because I've taken care of over 1,000 babies and toddlers. And before social media, I didn't have to ask parents. But I always, if I get an adorable picture, I'm always taking pictures. I always ask the parents if I can use their picture on my website. Or, I don't normally put pictures on Facebook, of families' babies, but I always ask. And it's even a great idea when you first have a baby to train grandma or grandpa if they use the computer and say, you know what, please don't post anything unless you ask me first, and explain to them, because I don't think we do the follow through and think about what's going to happen.
What you're saying is so important, because sometimes those pictures are not just of your kids, but they're of your friends' kids, and you don't have permission to post their pictures. So that's a conversation parents need to be having with each other.
It's changed so much, Carol, because I can remember years ago when my kids were, they're in the tub, and I would never post that. And I used to threaten when they got older, I'm going to show everybody this picture when you have your first date. And it's, and it was a picture. It was a picture that you held in your hand. Not that I would ever do that, and I didn't. But it's so different because it's much easier.
Yeah. And the point is, there is no take back. There is no delete button. Once it's out there, it's out there. And these things get, scarfed up in a New York minute. And don't think just because you have a circle of 250 friends, that's all the people that are going to see it. That is not the case at all. Not the case at all. No,
it isn't. And it's just the one press of the button, and it's everywhere. And it's scary. It is very scary because, also, while we're talking about this, since it's so much with crazy people out there, anytime you get something, and I'm sure you'll agree, anytime you get anything in your email and you don't recognize it, delete it.
Oh, totally.
Delete it.
Yeah.
And people will send you things and they'll say, you know what, they'll write it in such a way that you really want to know what it is. But if you don't recognize what it is, delete it. I mean, it's scary.
Email has been, I actually did an experiment. As you know, I've been off the grid here for about 3 weeks, and I did an experiment of how much junk mail I got. I didn't delete it. When I was able to get to email, I only dealt with the absolute important things. And I have like 5-6 different email accounts, but in my 2 primary accounts, and I'm looking at the numbers right now, in 3 weeks, this is since August 11th, I have 4,073 spams in one email account and 5,788 in the other. And to your point, some of them are so believable that it's frightening. I mean, when in doubt, delete. If something is that important, you know what? My theory is they'll get back to me.
That's so true. But how do you get rid of this? How do you get rid of this? Tell me quickly, because we are coming to the end of the show. How do you get rid of this spam?
Well, if it's a legitimate email and somebody puts you on their subscription list, you can unsubscribe. That's okay. Otherwise, you have to block and delete, because if you respond in any way, you're fair game, and now they know that you're a real account and they're going to come after you. So block and delete. Block the email address, and they'll come back at you again and again and again, but eventually it does slow down a little bit.
And if you do it every day, which it's gotten away from me many times. I swear I clean out my email and I'm never going to do this again, but like everybody else it gets to. You know what? If you go in every day and just go through your emails that you get for the day, it makes it so much easier. Yeah. But on that note, Carol, thank you so much for being on the show today. Terrific information. I have all the apps written down. I am going to share them. Share your sites. I will put it on my websites. And you have a great rest of your day and have a fun show today. I can't wait to hear it.
Thanks so much, Blythe, and thank you for having me on.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Wow, what an eye-opening show today. Next week, my guest will be Dr. Lorna Fredrickson. She's a dermatologist, and she is going to share all her advice for keeping your family safe in the sun. Because, just because the summer ends, it doesn't mean that the sun isn't shining on our skin and hurting it. So I can't wait to talk to Dr. Lorna. It's going to be another great show. And also remember to listen to all the other wonderful shows we have on TogiNet. There are terrific shows, and you'll learn so much. I love, as I said, when I take my walk, I put my headphones in and I listen to Carol's show all the time. And I listen to a lot of the other shows, so it's really easy to pull up one of the podcasts. Also, like my pages on Facebook. And follow me on Twitter and check out my Pinterest, my LinkedIn, my Google+. Lots of fun stories, tips, everything. And if you need a little parent coaching, go to mybestparentingadvice.com. You can contact me through that, or you can call my office at 480-510-1453. I love coaching, and I love babies, love toddlers. I've taken care of many, many over the past 35-plus years, and it is such a passion. They're so adorable. And I love the teaching, so contact me. Also, I'd like to leave you today with these little tidbits. A building sign says, in case of fire, exit building before tweeting about it. And the teacher says to her kindergarten student, it's called reading. It's how people install new software into their brains. You know what? Keep reading those books. There's nothing like a book in your hand and sitting down with your little one and reading together. So thanks so much for tuning in today. I hope you have a great rest of your week, whatever you're doing, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.